Hey guys, Mr. Milton here. Today we're looking at graphing lines. At the end of this video, you should be able to graph lines that are in slope-intercept form. And you should be able to graph horizontal and vertical lines. All right, there are three forms of linear equations. Okay, the one we are doing today is called slope-intercept form. It's the one that we will use most often in this class, and probably the next as well. Okay, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. Okay, the slope m, think of it as representing how much of the line changes from one point to the next. And the y-intercept is b. And think of that representing the point at which you start when graphing. Okay. What is the y-intercept? It is the point where the line crosses the y-axis. Okay, so very important that when we are graphing, we identify the y-axis. The y-axis is the line that goes up and down. Okay, and so we always start, when we're using our slope-intercept form, on the y-axis somewhere. Okay, so this would be the y-intercept, the one point on the y-axis that it meets. So let's look at some functions here and just identify those pieces. Okay, so again, our slope-intercept form was y equals mx plus b. And so what we're going to do, because it's written in a way that it's kind of generally easy to understand and recognize, we're going to find our slope and our y-intercept. Remember, the slope is the number that's by x, and the y-intercept is the number that's constant, or that does not have a variable by it. Okay, so here in this first problem, it says f of x, but remember, f of x is the same as y. The number in front of our x is our slope. Our slope is 2. Okay, notice that it's not 2x. Our slope is just 2. Our y-intercept is the number that is constant, no variable by it. Here you'll see 3 and you'll be tempted to use 3, but remember our equation is plus b. So instead of it being plus 3, it's negative 3 or minus 3. So we will say it's minus 3 is our y-intercept. So our slope here is 2, our y-intercept is negative 3. Okay, you can try these other problems now, and then we'll go over them really quickly. Try these other problems. Okay, so hopefully you got those in the pause. Number 2, we have y equals negative 3/5 x plus 4. Well, what's our slope? It is the number that's by x. Notice that this number now is a fraction, and so it's negative 3/5. What's our y-intercept? It's the number that doesn't have a variable by it. It's just positive 4. Number 3, what's our slope? Our slope is the number that's by x, and in this case it's 4. What's our y-intercept? It's the number that's by itself. And it's a little bit special because it's like, wait a second, there is no number by itself. Correct, but remember that there is going to be a number that's by itself here. The number is plus 0. And the reason we don't write it is because what's plus 0 do? Nothing. So what is our y-intercept? 0. And we can notice that because there is no number written that's by itself. Number 4, they try to trick you a little bit in the sense that they did not give it to us like we've been used to, I guess, in our 3 problems of experience seeing it. Okay, our formula is y equals mx plus b, but they gave us y equals b plus mx. And that's okay. Our slope is the number that's in front of x. What number is in front of x? Negative 3 is in front of x. Okay, and that sign in front of the number is important, just like it was important for our y-intercept, right? So negative 3 is our slope. And our y-intercept, there's no sign in front of it, means it has to be positive, is 10. Okay, so identifying that is important because once we identify that, that's how we'll get to our graph. And so we get to our graph here. We're basically going to have to do the same thing here that we did up in this section in order to graph here. So I'm going to want to identify and say my slope is the number in front of x, 3/2. my y-intercept is a number that's by itself, positive 1. Okay. Like I said, we want to think of where do we start? We always start at the y-intercept. The y-intercept in this case was 1. Our slope was 3/2. Remember, slope tells us rise over run. So it tells us to rise 3 and run 2. Remember, up is positive, down is negative, left is negative, right is positive for run. Okay, so rise 3, 1, 2, 3, run 2, 1, 2. Rise 3, 1, 2, 3, run 2, 1, 2. Should be consistent. Okay, if in any case you get to the end of the graph and you feel like, I really wish I could do more, remember that a negative divided by negative is also positive. So we could go down 3, 1, 2, 3, and left 2, 1, 2. You should notice that it's a part of that same line. Down 3, 1, 2, 3, left 2, 1, 2. Okay, from there, you're going to try to graph this line. I hope I can do this right. You should have a line that goes through that. All right, and if we continued our dots all the way through, that's how it worked out. Okay, number 2. All right, so looking at this problem, I want to identify my slope and my y-intercept. My slope in this case is negative 4/7. My y-intercept is 6. Now notice how I write my slope. Sometimes when it's computer generated, you'll see that this negative's in the middle. And a lot of people have a tendency to, if that negative's in the middle, to put it both places, to say, okay, down 4 and left 7. But as we just saw, when we go down and to the left, it's a positive slope. Okay, so when I rewrite my slope as I identify it, I want to make sure that I either choose it to be the numerator or the denominator. Doesn't matter which one you choose it in, but as long as it's not both places, then you're going to have a negative slope. So here my y-intercept is 6. That's where I start. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right there. And my slope, I'm negative 4/7. So I'm going to go down 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and over 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And here is my point that I need to go through my lines. If I tried to switch it up, because remember, it's really the same thing as 4 over negative 7, this would tell me to go up 4 and then left 7, which I don't have space to do. And so that's why it's important for me to be able to do both. Okay. And so now, as I try to make that line that goes through these two. All right. I'm sure I'll get better at graphing on the computer. Here we go. All right, so a couple more. Let's go through these a little bit quicker, identifying them and then making our points, okay? And it's nice to just make the points that you need on the line or on the graph because it makes it easier for us to identify it quickly. Okay, so need to find identify the slope and the y-intercept. Our slope is the number in front of x. You might notice that there's no number in front of x. Remember, if there's nothing written in front of x, that must mean that number is 1. In this case, remember, it cannot be 0 because if it were 0, 0 times x is 0. We wouldn't need x here at all. Okay, our y-intercept is negative 5. So we start 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down. And our slope is 1. And it's nice to write it as a fraction because that tells us our rise and our run. Rise 1, run 1. Rise 1, run 1. Okay, and I'm just going to do that with these points here, points here. Okay. So as I try to do that, that point. That's pretty good. Okay. There's my line. Okay. B. Number 4. My slope, my B, my y-intercept. My slope in this case is negative 3. My y-intercept, there's nothing written here, right? We've already seen that. That's 0. So that means my y-intercept 0 right here. My slope is negative 3, down 1, over 1. Okay, it goes down 3, 1, 2, 3, over 1. Okay, remember it could also go up 3, 1, 2, 3, and left 1. Up 2, 3, left 1. Okay, seeing this negative slope should tell us, hey, our line needs to fall. So that's one way that we can check ourselves to make sure that we're on the right track. Okay. All right. Number 5. Okay. Okay, so identifying my slope as 5/3, my y-intercept as 7. So my y-intercept being 7 means it's all the way up here. My slope is 5/3. I can't go up 5 and right 3. So I have to say, okay, well, I'm going to do down 5, left 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, right? Because negative divided by negative is positive. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. Boom. Okay, so as I try to graph this, and then finally, M equals B equals, again, notice that they switched it up on us and put our slope second, but it's easy enough for us to see because it's by the x, right? Our y-intercept is the number that doesn't have a variable by it, it's 5. So 5 is our y-intercept, our slope is -2 as a fraction. It means I'm going down 2 over 1, 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 and then you can go up 2 and to the left 1 if you wanted to, because remember that that will be the same as +2 over -1. Okay, and so there is our graph, and we can try that line that connects those things if didn't work out. Okay, but here are our points. All right. So this concept is often very difficult for people to remember, so make sure you pay attention here. Graphing horizontal and vertical lines. They've given us 2 equations. Let's look at number 1 first. They told us y is 4. Here's the easiest way that I can tell you to do this. Find 2 points where the y coordinate is 4. Okay, and so the easiest one, people typically will be like, all right, well, 1, 2, 3, 4. And they'll be like, well, there's no other place where y is 4. Okay, well, let's look at this as a coordinate. This is 0, 4. That's one place where y is 4. What's another place on this whole coordinate plane where y is 4? Okay. The other place I can think of right off my head, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Is the point 4, 4. Notice in both of these, the y coordinate, and this is what our equation is telling us, is that y is 4. In both of this, y is 4. So now here should be our coordinate. The point where y is 4. Try to make it horizontal here. And now our line that goes through these two is here. Horizontal line. Y equals is horizontal. Instead of horizontal. Horizontal. The y being the play on words here. Okay. As we look at the second graph, it says x is -2, or x equals -2. Again, same strategy. Let's find 2 places where x is -2. Here I see a point. Remember that coordinate would be -2, 0. And let's find another place where x is -2. Okay, again, you can choose anything. But I'm just going to choose this one where I know that both points are -2. -2, -2. Okay. So here, what we see is if we make a line through these points, we have a vertical line. Okay. Vertical or vertexal lines in the X. Okay. So vertical lines start with x equals and have a slope that's undefined, just like we talked about our slopes in our last video. Okay. Horizontal lines start with y equals and have a slope that is 0. Okay, this is actually in slope-intercept form, believe it or not, because y equals mx plus b. If you'll notice that our m is just 0, and our b is 4 in this case. Okay, and when we simplify this, 0 times anything is just 0, so we don't need to write it down. This is in slope-intercept form. Kind of a special case, but not really that special. Our x equals is not slope-intercept form. This is kind of different on its own. Okay, but we should be able to parse this out just by understanding slope-intercept form. Okay, and then we add in this special case. All right, see ya.